Like many YouTube content creators, I have been using Adobe software for quite a long time. However, I have just received an email from Adobe that they are rebranding their plans and they are doubling my subscription plan in price. I am not okay with that. So I'm cancelling my Adobe subscription and I have set out to find the best alternatives for my workflow. To edit my YouTube videos, up to this point I have used Adobe Premiere Pro. However, if you check out my videos on this channel, then you might notice that my editing style is really simplistic. I have screen recordings or some camera footage. I cut between the footage, I use zoom ins or zoom outs, I use basic titles, slap some sound effects on top, and boom, the video is finished and everyone loves it. I try to lean into simplicity as much as I can, and it works so well for my channel. But everything that I just mentioned, almost any video editing software can do all of that, which means there is not anything that is strictly tying me to Adobe. So what am I going to switch to? Final Cut is an editing software that is developed by Apple. It costs a whopping $300. Now for me this is quite expensive. However, luckily, I am a last year university student as of the time of recording this video, and Apple offers a Pro Apps education bundle that comes with a bunch of apps for much cheaper, €229 for the whole package. I bought the bundle and now I own Final Cut Pro. I also had to wait a few hours for the product codes to arrive to my email. Now, I know people usually recommend something like DaVinci Resolve. However, the reason why I want to switch to Final Cut is because 1. I have an Apple Silicon MacBook Pro, and since Final Cut is developed by Apple, it is extremely optimized for Apple Silicon MacBooks, so it should work very well. And 2. I have actually used Final Cut Pro already before when I started out with this channel, so I'm a little bit familiar with it, and that makes switching a lot easier. I already got to edit my last video with Final Cut Pro, and there are a few things I would like to mention that were different from Premiere Pro. The first is the Magic Timeline. This one is a flagship feature of Final Cut Pro, and it is shown everywhere on their marketing material. When editing video and audio, I usually need to remove dead space between sentences. However, I could not find how can you link audio and video together so that I could edit them at the same time. I ended up moving the audio first and then adjusting the video to it. From googling around, I found that you either create a compound clip, which is similar to a nested sequence in Premiere Pro. Now the video and audio is together and I can adjust both of them to be a bit shorter. Or the second way is that you synchronize audio and video clips inside of this file browser right here, and then you drag your new clip into the timeline. But then what do I do if I have already cut up all of my audio and I put video on top of it and I want to cut the video up and link everything together? I guess compound clip is the only option here. I don't know if I'm missing something, but this was a bit weird. Another weird part about Final Cut Pro was the exporting settings. On Premiere Pro they are detailed and you can tweak every setting how you want. On Final Cut Pro you click this button right here in the corner, click on Export File, then you go to the settings and here you can customize some stuff. But overall, it's pretty limited. Turns out that to get more export settings, you have to create a custom preset outside of Final Cut Pro. You do that on the compressor application, where you create a preset and then you can import it into Final Cut Pro. This compressor application is sold separately for $50. These are just some of the things I found really strange about this software coming from Premiere Pro. Other than that, it's great. So I have got my video editing software replaced. But the next piece of software I have to replace is Adobe Photoshop, which I was using to make my thumbnails. Once again, my thumbnails are also pretty simple. What I do in Photoshop I can also do in most other photo editing softwares. And the most popular Photoshop alternative is... I have also already tried this one before. It was pretty solid from what I can remember, so let's switch to Affinity. It costs €75. As a college student, I am going broke after this video, but you know what? This is a sacrifice for a greater cause. Anyway, I paid for it and immediately I got the download links, which was really fast compared to someone else. When opening up the program, immediately the layout feels somewhat similar to Photoshop. Not everything is in the same place, but a lot of things are, and that makes adjusting to a new software much easier. I used Affinity Photo 2 to create a thumbnail for my previous video. A lot of things you can just figure out by actually using the software, but for some features I had to quickly Google how to do something. For example, I had a point where I wanted to change the color of an object, and I didn't know how to do it at first. But it turns out one of the ways to do it is to go down here, then click on this button, then click on HSL. Then you pick the color you want changed, you use the color picker to grab that exact color, and then easily just adjust the sliders to whatever you want it to look like. And boom, color changed. It was pretty simple. There are a lot of Affinity Photo 2 tutorials out there for newcomers like me, so that's a really good thing. Another thing that I noticed was different from Photoshop is that Affinity Photo doesn't have a free transform tool. That slowed me down a little bit. Free transform in Photoshop is like an all-in-one tool. It lets you scale your object, rotate, skew, distort, perspective, warp, and so much more. It's like a Swiss Army knife of tools that allows you to quickly do whatever you want to do effortlessly. Affinity Photo doesn't have that. If you want to scale, move, or rotate your object, there's the Move tool. Want to do perspective or distort? Perspective tool. Want to warp your object? Then you have to use the Mesh Warp tool. Want to flip your object? Go up here in the menu, click on Arrange, and there you have flip horizontally or vertically. This is one thing that I didn't like because it slows down my entire workflow. What is more straightforward and simpler in Photoshop often takes a few more clicks to do in Affinity Photo. But other than that, I like it. Then, what I also use is Adobe Audition. I primarily use it to record voiceover audio for my videos, and applying a few effects to the audio to enhance it. And up to this point, it worked great. I was extremely used to the software. Again, I don't need much. I just need to be able to do the most basic stuff like record the audio and apply a few effects to it. I have about 3 possible options to migrate to. One of them is Audacity. It is completely free and open source. I did use it for enhancing my audio for my previous video. It worked fine. Then from the Apple Pro Apps bundle that I bought just to get Final Cut Pro, it actually came bundled with something called Logic Pro. If you buy it separately, it costs $200. I happen to have it. This is a digital audio workstation and it seems to be really professional. However, it seems to be geared more towards music production. From what I could find online, it does seem to be a solid option for voiceover audio. I have not tried out this software properly yet, so I can't give you my thoughts on it. The third option I could switch to is Reaper. This tool is also really professional. I have never used it before, but I have heard a lot of good things about it. Based on all of these options, right now it seems like I will try out Logic Pro, because that's the best digital audio workstation that I already own and have installed. I know there are so many different reasons why consumers hate Adobe, but for me personally it was mainly about the crazy subscription prices and some of their anti-consumer practices, like having to pay a ton of money just to cancel your subscription, or deciding to double my subscription plan in price out of nowhere. So as of today I am free of Adobe. It's almost like getting rid of a computer virus. I don't have anything else to say, so get out of here.